This has come up multiple times over the last couple of years, and I finally got around to doing a video about it. And it's about how to use your sling on an AR, theoretically and physically. So the theory on how you use a sling on an AR is really based on how you're going to use the gun. And in some situations, you want as much flexibility as possible. In other situations, it's not as big a deal and you can set it up really basic. This one I have set up with two front sling points and then a rear sling point on both sides of the stock, and then a QD mount right here, and then I use a quick detach sling. And the sling has an adapter on it that I can convert it to single point from 2-point, and then it has a slider so that I can transition from right hand to left hand. So it gives me a lot of flexibility in the way that I use it. There are basically three types of slings out there. Three basic types of slings that have been used recently. There are multiple types of slings. I get that. But you simply have a single point, a 2-point, and a 3-point sling. Those are your most common. There's actually a 4-point sling too, or like the international biathlon slings. Not getting into that. We're getting into basic everyday use type stuff. So the 3-point sling has essentially gone away, but in the early 2000s, late 90s, it was the cat's meow. And I had one, and that's what I used in Iraq for 2 tours, because at the time it was really the best one that was on the market. A lot of the military branches didn't issue slings, and if they did, it was the GI sling that has clips on the end, and they were just uncomfortable and they didn't work really well. So you saw a lot of makeshift and impromptu slings. Those ideas got transitioned into what we're actually using today. This is war knowledge. This is how we have learned to use slings on guns, and it's called the hard way. Yes, we all suffered through trying to figure out how to sling our guns and carry the damn things all day long out in the middle of the worst places on the planet. That's why slings became such a big deal, because figuring out how to carry a gun comfortable can become problematic initially, and you've got to muddle your way through it. So hopefully this answers some of your questions. So the single point sling, I do still set my guns up for vehicle use. And that's essentially where I find that single point sling shines, okay? So I'm putting it here. I'm using a Magpul, basically a Magpul sling adapter to make it a single point sling on the back of this. And this is a Blue Force Gear sling. So now I'm in single point. It's on the QDN mount right here, okay? And that's the only attachment point. It gives me the ability to hold the gun left hand and right hand. So I can shoot out of one side of the vehicle or other side of the vehicle. I can get in and out of choppers, or I can get in and out of helicopters on different sides. And if you're doing like a fast bird, sometimes this is easier because now it's stationary in the middle of your legs, and it's not binding as you're trying to get it vertical, as you're sitting in a chair on the outside of a helicopter where you're just gonna run off, right? So vehicle use, single point sling, still very advantageous. For everything else, it's basically gonna crush your genitalia, okay? And it's gonna suck and you're not gonna like it. This is horrible for maneuvering in an open area. 2-point sling is much better for that, and that's the majority of what I use on my gun is 2-point sling. So your number one use in 2-point slinging is strong side 2-point. Just like this. I'm on the outside of the stock, and then I'm on the inside of the handguard towards the back here. This is very comfortable. It's very quick to bring this up and manipulate it, okay? So, and you can see that the sling is on the outside of the stock. I'm inside of the sling with the actual butt stock, so it's touching me. The sling is not getting in the way of my face or in the stock as I'm shouldering it, okay? So the way that these slings work is you have a slider that you pull back and it extends the length of the sling. Now I can transition left hand, and I can use the gun left hand without choking myself, okay? That's the big thing, and that's why you have to extend these to transition right hand to left hand in this situation. Then you can tighten it back up and let it hang. That's your most common use. When I was in Iraq, I did HUMINT, and so I was talking to people off base on a regular basis. The gun became a barrier. So I did a lot of weak side slinging. I'm right-handed, this is my right shoulder, therefore this is strong side sling. Weak side sling, I swim out. This is called neck slinging, and I sling back in, or I swim back in with my right arm. Now the sling is on my left shoulder. This is my weak side, therefore it's weak side slinging, or sometimes they call it machine gun slinging, because a lot of the branches teach this with the saw. It just slings better this way for some reason. It's a little bit more comfortable to carry. So machine gun slinging or weak side shoulder slinging. The reason I did a lot of this is I can still manipulate the firearm and use it, just like strong side. But I can also take this gun and put it behind me, just like this. And this is the benefit of weak side slinging. I now have the gun out of the way and it's comfortably behind me in a vertical position. If you try to do that strong side, you slam it into shit and it'll bind against your neck, okay? Weak side is not a problem. Strong side, as soon as you do this and you try to go around to the side, the gun sticks out weird. And as you get all the way behind you, it binds. It binds because it's underneath here instead of on top. And so you're literally cutting off circulation to half of your brain. Well, after you've fought with a suspect for a while, and now you're trying to cuff them and you throw the gun behind you and you cut off half of your circulation to your brain, this is bad. You might as well punch yourself in the neck and give yourself a brachial stun, okay? You're basically choking yourself out. Not a good thing. But learning how to swim in and out, put it behind you, done, okay? So strong side versus weak side is pretty important to figure out. How to swim in and swim out of the sling is pretty important also. Another portion that I like to teach when I'm teaching slinging is from strong side. If I'm going to use it for a long period of time, I'll take the sling and I'll grab it here and I'll put it straight up and down behind me. Boom, just like this, okay? So when it's straight up and down like this, I can now maneuver for a very long amount of time and it's out of the way. This is not a situation where I'm going to use it like this in a dangerous situation where I might need the gun, okay? So most of the time what I do when I do this is I'll take and I'll switch here and I'll put it like this so that it's hanging down and it's definitely out of the way. Now I can walk for miles. It's very comfortable. I have all of the weight. It's nicely across my back, okay? Very comfortable. And if I need it, all I have to do is bring it up, bring it over and down, and now I have it strong side slinged, okay? But a lot of competitions, I will use something called weak side muzzle up front. So weak side, muzzle up front, which is this right here. Now I have the weight in front of me and I can control it. This is very comfortable here, but it hangs down a little bit. If I'm walking, it's not too bad. What I typically do is I'll take this, I'll move it to my point here, and then I'll hold onto the gun here, and now everything's out of my legs, and I can run like this almost forever. It's very comfortable to run like this. I have control of the weight, so it's not bouncing around. And if I just got done shooting and the thing's really hot, I still have control of that heat and it's not touching me and burning me. I learned this from PRS shooters when I shot the WTRC match, the Wyoming Tactical Rifle Championship in 2018, I think it was. I was using this on 2-mile courses. We did two 2-mile courses a day for a total of 4 miles of distance. Shot about 500 rounds over the 2 days, total of 8 miles. Longest shot was 958 yards, I believe. So, which I hit twice. I have a long distance AR with an 18-inch barrel, and that's what I carried. A lot heavier, a lot more weight, but I carried it like this almost the whole time. And that was a lot of weight and a lot of movement, but it works well for that. So that's essentially how you set this gun up to make it as flexible as possible and maneuverable as possible so you can swim in and swim out of it and make it usable still. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of set it up for the use of the gun, and then you have to play with it and figure out what works best for you. But understand that there's more than one way to use the sling, and because of that, at least in this situation, I prefer the straight sling. It's just easier to manipulate from front to back, up to down. The ones that have a curve in it, in this situation like this, very comfortable. They'll actually hang better, they hang easier. But the reality is, the straight slings like this have a tendency to be a little bit more flexible when it comes to how you're maneuvering the gun. I did this specifically with gear on and magazines on so that you could see that it works with gear on. I'm not snagging stuff and pulling it out and throwing it everywhere. It's just a matter of practicing with the sling with your gear on to figure out how to best manipulate it and get comfortable. But it's part of the tool of the firearm. So learn how to use it. It makes it a lot more comfortable on a regular basis.